where their personal ethics align with the organization's ethics. So if you have any concerns about keeping the talent, growing the talent within your organization, you want to make sure that you've got good ethical practices, a good ethical climate within your organization. It really does help out a lot. Of course, there's always protection from civil liability. And then finally, this is something that was brought up earlier, the public demands ethical administration, especially these days, where people are just sensitive to the issue, and they're going to report things, and they're going to write on blogs. Don't read the blogs. It's just not pretty. Okay? So that's why this is an important issue. Let me ask you this. We're talking about the ethical culture, the ethical climate within the organization. What contributes to that ethical climate? What's the most important issue, do you think? The most important factor?
Leadership and their behavior.
Aha. Anyone want to disagree or comment on that? The number one factor contributing to an ethical climate within the organization are the folks around you. Absolutely. Everyone in this room. Look at this graphic. This is factors promoting an ethical workplace environment. This is from a Deloitte & Touche survey done a couple of years ago. The number one factor is the behavior of management. They surveyed individuals who work in an organization, businesses and government organizations. The number one factor, the folks are taking their ethical cues from you. Whether we know it or not, whether we want to be moral exemplars or not, they're watching. Leadership counts when it comes to ethics. The behavior of management, number one. The second thing is the behavior of the direct supervisor. So if top leadership, the folks in HQ, the folks in the executive chamber are misbehaving, people are taking their cues from them. And the direct supervisor, that person's misbehaving. Folks get the sense that anything goes, and then we start down that slippery slope. Okay? And then other factors, positive reinforcement for ethical behavior. Boy, we rarely think about this in organizations. How do we reward positive ethical behaviors? Boy, not easy to do. There are some rare instances of organizations actually building this into the performance appraisal process. That's a way I guess you could do it. But that's a rare case indeed. Compensation and then behavior of peers, who you run with, right, will help you determine the ethical climate within your work group. Number one factor, managers, leaders, supervisors within the organization. They're watching. There's an old Shakespearean saying that really hits this point, brings this point home. A fish rots from the head first. A fish rots from the head first. Right? It's true, right? If the top of the organization, the head of the fish, is tainted, it eventually works its way down the rest of the fish, in this case, an organization. Okay? And there's a lot of good literature dealing with this. Most of my research is in policing literature. You know, if the top of the organization is bad, boy, it really sends negative messages throughout the rest of the organization. Okay? So leadership really does count. So, what can we do as leaders within our organization? Again, this is from the Deloitte & Touche survey. This is what your people are looking for. This is the ethical guidance they're searching for. Giving proper credit where it is due. Number one response. If you want to help to create a positive climate in your organization, give credit where it's due. This is what people want. They're clamoring for. Always being straightforward. Always being transparent. Remember, that's the new catchword, right? Being transparent, open, and honest when dealing with employees. But actually, folks, those are values of your organization, right? Integrity, honesty, transparency, openness. Treating all employees equally, fairly, in similar fashion. Being a responsible steward of company assets. My goodness, that's another value for DENR. You got a lot of these already. They're at least formalized. Okay? Recognize and reward ethical behavior of employees. Talking about the importance of ethics on a regular basis. I'm not necessarily, this may sound strange, folks, as a person who does ethics training. I don't think we need a lot of ethics training, ongoing ethics training. What we need is ongoing conversations within our work group about ethical issues and learning from one another and talking about it. Practicing making ethical decisions. That's where we're heading today. Rather than bringing in, outside speakers to talk about it. That's good every now and then. But I think it needs to be, as commonplace as talking, maybe not as much talking about financial issues or budgeting issues or policy issues and things like that. But talking about these issues and learning from one another and wrestling with these issues, boy, that contributes to a positive ethical climate within an organization. And then reporting or reprimanding other employees on ethical behavior. Dealing with those ethical problems on the spot immediately. And then instead of, what we sometimes do is sweep it under the rug, or sometimes we promote it up and out, right? Which is sometimes happens in government. All right. I handed out at the break an organizational ethical climate survey. Okay? We're not going to do it here today, but at your leisure, I'd like you to sit down and respond to those several dozen questions. And it basically will allow you to identify maybe some blind spots in the ethical climate in your work group or organization. Basically, it's looking at these different dimensions of ethical climate. Accountability. So there are certain questions on the survey that deal with accountability to all those individuals and institutions that you identified before. Okay? Fairness, responsiveness, customer service, communication. Communication deals with how well do we communicate our values in the organization. Are folks familiar with the values, the DENR values, and the codes of ethics that are available to members of certain professions within the organization? How well are we communicating these values? Integrity, honesty, leadership, trust, all important factors in developing a positive ethical climate. So what you would do is you would respond to those questions, add together the scores. Strongly disagree would get 1 point, strongly agree would get 4 points, and then you would divide by the number of questions. And then you basically look to see where did we score the lowest. Maybe that's something we need. Maybe we need a better program for communicating our values within the organization. Maybe we talk about the DENR values to start off a staffing, okay, and how it relates to our everyday work life. Okay.
We don't get ethics surveys, we get satisfaction surveys.
Okay.
I guess they're basically kind of like almost the same thing.
Okay. There will be some crossover in the questioning. Probably different role. I think that from my experience, those satisfaction surveys with staff have more to do with kind of turnover issues and quality of life type issues. How can we grow the talent, keep it, succession planning type issues, things like that. In this highly competitive environment for talent. I know I've seen that in DOT in particular. Does anyone have any questions there about organizational ethics? And I apologize for moving through each of these segments in rapid form. You could spend a week on each. But, I just wanted to give you a little taste of each level. Now we're moving to personal morality. We started off with a large social organization like a nation, a tribe, a state, moved down to profession, an organization. Now we're down to the individual level. Okay? This is where we're going to spend the remaining part of the session. personally want to have.